Hi girlies!
Good morning.
We're back.
Good afternoon.
You know
Good
what?
evening.
You know that, guess who's back and better than ever?
Guess who's back and better than ever.
Here we are.
Hopefully better than ever.
Well, okay, let's just talk about the last 2 episodes. If the technical aspect of this just goes better than the last 2 episodes, we're better than ever.
Yes.
We are better than ever.
It's been a struggle.
It has. Thanks for sticking it out. Hopefully, last week's episode should be the first episode that you guys saw us in the studio.
In the studio, because the first week's episode's file got corrupted. We don't know how. We don't know when. We edited the full thing. It just never exported.
And we tried multiple solutions, whatever. Didn't work.
Good times.
Here we are.
We don't talk about it anymore.
We move on swiftly.
Have you seen Encanto?
No.
Do you like animations?
Sometimes. I think the thing is, I like them. They're never my go-to because I didn't grow up watching a lot of them. So like when I watch them, I'm like, wow, this is actually so cool. But it's so never something that I go to watch.
You should watch Encanto because it's an animation. It's like the new Frozen vibe. But it's like for kids, dude. But it's so cute. The reason why I'm saying you should watch it is because it's a Mexican family.
Right.
So it's like my people, bro. And it's literally things that happen
representation.
It happens in every
Mexican
like Latino family, I think. Like the arguments and stuff that they have. So
cute. What is? Oh, did you ever watch Rio?
Yeah.
The bird.
Yeah. The bird.
That's my favorite animation.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I can rightfully say that because let's keep in mind I only watched Finding Nemo when I was 19 for the first time. But so I haven't watched a lot. But
we need to dive into like the fact that you don't watch. Like, as a kid, you didn't watch animation.
As a kid, I didn't really watch TV.
Because it's so strange.
I watched Teletubbies and Barbie sometimes.
Literally, like, she's not even joking, because we'll talk about things that, like Finding Nemo, and she's like, I never saw that. I'm like, what do you mean?
There's a lot of movies that people also watched in, like, their, like, not childhood, but, like tweens, and I never watched it.
It's so strange.
And TV was not a focus. Which is interesting, because why the fuck am I in drama? But TV was never a focus.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's because you were deprived, so.
You know, I'm like, not only will I watch it, I will be in it.
I am the moment.
I am it.
What was I going to say? My favorite animation growing up was Hercules.
Hercules?
Yeah, because he's fucking cute. But
that is so random, girly.
Yeah, but
you're into mythology?
Yeah, the movie itself was really nice. Like, it was my favorite movie. I used to have... Remember those CDs that would come half the movie on side A, half the movie on side B? So I would have to flip it. That was like my favorite.
Hang on. So, okay. I think this is once again us on different vibes. You watched Hercules. Is it like an actual animation?
An actual animation for kids.
Because the only Hercules I ever watched was also when I was little, but I think it's just something that used to come onto TV and it was like real humans playing Hercules. And it was definitely not meant for me to be watching. Like,
no, there's a Hercules movie for kids, an animation. It's so cute.
Girl, we had such different introductions to things. Because now I don't really like mythology because I'm like, what the fuck was that moment?
Yeah. You see, but I was introduced to it through like an age-appropriate thing. Yeah. So I was like, oh my god, mythology.
Cute.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this actually goes perfectly with what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about our transitions in life. Our evolutions. Where did we start? How are we here? What has that brought us?
Our different eras.
The eras.
Right?
The eras of us.
I love that word.
Yeah. And just, you know, what was the different defining moments in your life? And honestly, if you know me, you know my slogan for everyone is like, move. Just pack all of your bags.
Pack up and go.
Everything you have and move to a place you've never been before. Especially if you like were born and grew up in the same place. First of all, I don't understand that. Like, I genuinely forget. Most of my friends that I have now were born and raised here. And I don't.
Yeah, well, I also don't understand that because we immigrated here like when I was literally 6.
Yeah.
So then at that point, I remember one of my first friends in primary school, I went to visit her house the one day. Well, I slept over there. And then she was like, yeah, my parents have lived in this house for like the past 14 years. And I was like, what?
Yeah, how does that happen?
That's so weird.
It is really weird. especially when people are like, so I'm like driving around the area. I don't know well, I know the area. I've been living in this specific area for a year now, almost a year. And like driving around it, I'm like, yeah, I know certain points. But like Marius will be like, oh, yo, a trick thing was here. Oh, whatever. Oh, I'm like,
excuse me? You're like, how?
In my brain, that's just a random field or a random venue. But to him, it has memories. I'm like,
it's so
you've
strange.
literally lived here forever.
It's strange. But the thing is, what's interesting is that you're like, pack up and go. And I'm like, I want to settle and be here. I want that, like, to be in one place and like put roots down.
Aww.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that comes from my transition was very different from yours.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's get into it.
It's so funny. Like, I just want to say this side note before we start. Like, because it even comes in with small things like traveling. You know, everyone's like, oh my God, travel. Like, especially when I got married, they're like, don't spend your money on material things. Like, just go.
Settle down, travel.
Yeah, they're like, travel, experience things. And I'm like,
no.
I don't want to. I don't want to. The thought of me sleeping in a bed that's not mine for like 3 weeks at a fucking crappy hotel, like walking around a place I don't know, it gives me so much anxiety. I hate it. Like, I can't do that. Is that weird? It is weird.
It's not weird.
It's just ghetto. Like, in my mind, I'm like, travel.
Well, yeah, I think, first of all, travel is glorified a lot.
It really
because
is.
it isn't what you think it is.
No, yeah.
But I want that. Like, not just in, like, I think a lot of people like, travel, like, go to fucking a different country, whatever. I don't necessarily want that. Like, well, I do, but that's not what I think about. I'm like, is it fine for me to sleep in a cabin in the woods while I'm hiking for 7 days and it's so uncomfortable every single day? Yes, because I get to see the mountains.
You
so, like,
see, no.
And you're like, girlie, are you telling me I could sit here for 7 days and watch Euphoria over and over again and sleep in my bed? I'm doing that.
Yeah, I'm doing that. Literally, that's me. Yeah.
So where did you start? What happened in your life, Greg?
Well, okay, I was born in Venezuela.
Can you try to be enthusiastic about your own life? Well, okay,
if you must know. I was born in Venezuela. The thing is, like, dude, I don't know. I think being especially Latina, like, people, there's so many connotations to that, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, whenever I just mention it to people, then it becomes a big thing. Like, oh, my God. Blah. And I'm like, shut up. It's not that. It's whatever. Like, just.
Well, I personally like to be like, my best friend is from Venezuela. And then we had, do you remember Kay's honors, where she was talking about, like, being a Western woman and then going back home and having to do the opposite. Like, she's celebrating here, like, feminism and being liberated and speaking up. And sorry if you're watching this, sorry if I'm not representing this right.
We can just edit her name out.
Yeah.
But no, I think the word she used was being a global woman.
Yes,
a global citizen.
Yeah, and then celebrating, like, speaking up and having a voice and whatever. And then when she goes back home, how to be respectful and not look her father in the eye. And not just speaking up to him in specific ways and whatever.
Yeah, that was super interesting.
How do you balance that dynamic?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. So what are your eras? Let's get into the actual topic of this episode.
Yeah, my life is different from yours in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways.
So yeah, I grew up here. I was born here. But I was 6 weeks old when we moved for the very first time. And I haven't stopped moving. Literally my entire life has been me moving.
This is my thing. Why did you move so much? I've never asked you that.
It was just the way things worked out, really. I don't know, obviously, well, I can't remember when I was little, but I know that we lived in at least 3 different towns before I started, like, gaining consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's not talking about houses. That's just talking about towns. And then from those towns, I remember moving multiple times. And then when I was grade 3, so about 8, we bought a house. And that was supposed to be the, like, settling point, like, whatever. And then we didn't even live there for a year, and my dad got a completely different job in a new city.
And we moved.
So then my parents were like, okay, well, they were trying to sell that house, but they were also like, we're not going to just buy a new house because we don't know. Now we buy a house, we move again in a year. So from there, it was just moving and moving and moving. So I lived in now, currently, where I am now. This is the 9th city that I've lived in.
That's crazy.
But in one city, for instance, that I lived in, I lived in 7 houses in 8 years. So like I was always moving. And I loved it. I really liked it. But I think it's because I got so used to it.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that. Because I feel like I had that experience also from like the shift from primary school to high school. Like primary school, and I don't know at what point, like why this happened or what like happened. But I was, like I said, I was a very extroverted child and like whatever, cool. Then in high school, I started becoming more of like the person that I am now. And I started also like realizing that everyone in my school and the people that I was friends with weren't really my friends. Like I was just friends with them because I see them every day. And like people would have parties and sleepovers and stuff and then I wouldn't get invited. And I'm like, okay, why?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm like, I get it because we're not on the same page. Like,
yeah.
Like I literally,
I don't actually relate to you.
No, yeah. The last 3 years of high school, I couldn't wait to get out of there because I knew university was going to be so much better because everyone there we were going to have the same like work ethic. We were going to be into the same things, you know, because I was the only person from my school, I think, that wanted to actually study drama.
Yeah.
Like that went into that field. And like, it just couldn't relate to anyone. And I was like, this is so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is traumatic.
I relate to you saying like the last 3 years you were like, I just want to get out of here.
Just want to get out.
Because I was never like that. Well, once I had moved to this new school in grade 4, then I stayed in that primary school and then went to the high school that most of the kids from that school also went to. And so I felt familiar in high school and going to high school and whatever. And I liked it and enjoyed it and liked the environment and whatever. And I was like really nerdy and loved school and was like...
I also always loved school.
Yeah.
And like learning, dude. I love learning.
And then I was always like that until I would say like probably grade 11. Then I was starting to realize, what's
going on?
I was like, something here is not right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about, where I was starting to be like, okay, I'm expected to be this person and live in this bubble and whatever.
Right.
But I think I'm interested in knowing what is outside of this bubble.
Right.
And people didn't relate to that. People were like, you want to go outside? You don't want to be in this bubble? Excuse me?
Dude, it's so funny that you say that. Like, I don't know if we've talked about this. I'm sure we have. Like how we were raised completely different. Like from literally the moment that I gained consciousness, like I was like a feminist. Because my family, my like nuclear family, like that's what they taught me. And like my mom, and I mean, I think maybe it has to do with the fact that we were 3 women and 1 guy. Like, shame, my poor dad would always say, like, if one of them starts crying, then they all start crying, then I must just leave because I will always be in the wrong. And I'm like, yes.
You got something there.
Yeah, and also like, just like inherently the way that my family functioned, like my dad would cook most of the meals growing up. And my mom was always like a super business, not that my dad wasn't like a business guy, but he told me like, I was a musician and then I just one day decided like maybe it would be cool to get an office job, so then I got an office job. But like it wasn't his
aspiration, it wasn't his goal in life.
Yes. So my mom was always the main breadwinner.
Your mom was hustling. She got a PhD like day 1.
Yeah. Well, she has a master's, but she's a freaking software engineer. Like this lady's crazy. And also, can we just talk about that? She got her master's. When we moved to South Africa, she did her master's in English, and English wasn't her first language.
Yeah, she barely. That's crazy.
You know what her master's is on? It's actually really interesting. It's about voting like electronically. And this was in 2007.
And South Africa still doesn't vote electronically because we don't have the facilities.
No, this lady's dope. Anyways, so she was always like the main breadwinner or whatever.
Make that happen.
So yeah, I was just like,
yeah, feminist.
Live your life. And also like I come from a very artsy family. Like a lot of people in my family are artists. Opposite. So it's just like so weird that for you it was like this whole like realization and like, oh my gosh. And for me it was just like, that's how life is.
My family are not artists. My mom has a line that's like her signature line. To my family, I'm weird. I'm the strange girl who's into this weird stuff. And my mom
they're like, get a real job.
Yeah. And my mom would always say, because I was always into arts, even when I was living in the bubble, and like that's how I see it. My eras are bubble and post bubble. Bubble was closed here, everything's so comfy and just like I don't care, like I don't know about the world. I don't know about the world. And then post-bubble was like, hang on, everything that happened in there was not right.
Yeah.
But even when I was in the bubble, I was really into arts. And then I think if you're into arts, arts is inherently questioning things. So
yes.
Then when I went to high school was when I really got to participate in it for the first time. That's when I started being in plays and whatever. So then I had those 2 years of like other people questioning stuff, and I'm seeing the questioning happening. And then in grade 11 was when I was starting to question everything myself.
Right.
And that's when I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Things are weird. But that whole time, my mom would always say, I'm a balloon and she is the string keeping me to the ground. And she still says that to this day.
Whoa.
I'm like, don't keep me. Let the string go.
Let it go.
Let me float.
Dude, that's traumatizing. Bro.
But that's literally, that's the core of our whole thing.
Yeah. Can I tell you something? My sister actually has trauma with like a line that's similar to that. They used to always tell her, your head is in the clouds.
Yeah.
And then she one day like literally spoke up about it. She's like, stop telling me my head is in the clouds. Like, and if it is, let me be. Like, I'm happy like this. I'm living my life.
Yeah. But
So
I think from my perspective where I am now, I'm like, I'm the opposite of living in the cloud, but I'm here. You guys are living in the cloud. Because
That's
you
true.
don't look at what's happening.
You're not grounded in like life.
And the reality and the systems that are in place all around it, the things that are happening that are just they adopted an ideology and have lived in it.
It's comfort zone.
Forever. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. And they're in the clouds and they're blinded by the clouds. And I'm here like, you want to tell me I'm in the clouds? Girlie, nothing about this is peaceful or fantasy.
It's so interesting that you say like art is inherently like questioning things.
Yeah.
That just triggered a memory in my brain. Like I said, I grew up with a family of artists, and one of my uncles, he's actually, I think, my godfather. Maybe my sister's godfather. I don't know. In Venezuela, we have 4, like 2 godfathers, 2 godmothers.
Yo.
So
it's like grandparents.
I'm not really sure which one's which. Anyways, so this uncle, Santiago Paul, he is like a very big Venezuelan digital artist. And his art would be like all over my grandmother's house and like my aunt's house and stuff. And but his art is like so crazy, dude. There's one piece that I saw this when I was 4 or 3. And I was like, what is happening? It's a hand, but it's a male body. Like an explicit male body, naked. And he's holding a pencil like this. We'll put in a picture. I'll show you later. But like, so now I'm 3. I'm walking around the house. I see like a naked hand man. And I'm like, guys,
what is this, guys?
What is this? You know, it's just...
Yeah, I didn't have any of those experiences. Like, art was not a focal point at all, which I find interesting because now I'm like, I'm painting stuff and putting it all over my house. I don't care. But yeah, I find it really interesting. Even now, when I go back to my mom's house, like, the stuff that's on the wall is like not... There'd be something hanging on the wall and it's like a flower. Like, that's the extent of it being like questioning or whatever, you know, it's really not.
It's that mass-produced Mr. Price.
Yes, and she will
canvas.
Exactly. And if there is real art that is really, I don't want to like bash her at all. It's just my family will not look at that and be like, something about this is intriguing, there's something questioning. It'll be like, that's really weird and wrong, and we should not look at that. And I don't know why people hang that in the house.
Like, if they saw that image of my uncle, they would be like,
this is inappropriate and kids should not be seeing
and
this.
kids are here. But like in my family, it's like, yeah,
this is art,
this is life. Like, look at it. It's so crazy.
So I had to do that myself, which was not easy, and which I think leads to a lot of my, not issues, but like, well, issues relating to a lot of stuff. I think my brothers, like, I can relate to my brothers more because they grew up in the same stuff and they've found their own ways of escaping, which is nothing like my ways, but is their own ways. And so I can relate to them better and whatever. But like, especially the older generation, like not only my parents, but like my parents' sisters or my mom's brothers and sisters, because I didn't really know my dad's. But they're the same. Like, there's no, I don't know. So breaking free of that, everyone was always like, oh, she's the crazy one. She's a little bit weird, you know?
So how did you manage, like, actually coming out of that? Like, how?
Well, okay, so that's the thing. It's so difficult because I was the weird one and the whatever, but I always performed in school well, and I stayed in the bubble, and I crossed my T's and dotted my I's. So
you had the facade.
I was still the golden child.
Right.
But they were like, I was like the golden child who every now and then would question something, and they'd be like,
they're like, that's out of character for you, but it was actually who you are.
It wasn't. But so breaking out of that has only really happened for me over the last year, where I was like, okay, guys, listen, you need to understand that I've been placed on a pedestal forever and ever and ever, and that was amazing because you get privileges. If you're placed on a pedestal, you get privileges that come out of that.
Yeah.
But I've also been... There were rules that I had to adhere to that no one else did to get that pedestal.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, I remember when I was in varsity, I went to visit my cousin, and she was matric. And she said, listen, I'm going to go out tonight to this place. Do you want to come along? And I was like, yeah, of course. And then my mom was like, you are absolutely not going out to that place. And my whole family was like, yeah, she's not going. But nobody said anything to my cousin. Everyone's like, yeah, of course you can go. Because she had broken out of that thing very early.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm not the golden child and I don't want to be. Whereas I was like, okay, I guess I'll be the golden child if that's what you want me to be.
Yeah.
And then I was expected to adhere to that.
I was also the golden child for sure. And it's also traumatizing. Like, it's so annoying.
The thing is, it comes with privileges and you have to recognize that. But then once you break or try to break out of that mold, it is almost dehumanizing, because they don't just look at you as a person who broke free of this mold that they put you in. They look at you as like, it's almost like a defector. Like something went wrong with you.
Yeah.
And you're not who we remember you as. And so you're whatever.
Like, oh, you were so perfect, and then you messed it up.
Yeah.
Ouch. That hurts.
I'm still going through that. Like, I'm not finished. I'm still going through that and understanding what that means and whatever. And it made me really scared to express my art in the right ways, because I was so scared that I still am, and I'm trying to break free of it.
Yeah.
Me expressing my art and really being the artist that I want to be is, how's that going to affect my relationships with my family?
We're still going to talk about this a lot, like when we get into like the religious trauma episode for me. Yeah.
How does breaking out of that mold affect every relationship you've ever had, and affect your relationship with yourself and your identity? It's identity politics. Who are you?
Who are you?
It sucks because people think you are this one person, but actually you're just living a double life.
Dude, and that's so weird for me. Did you ever go to those like really weird Christian camps, like at school, and then they would ask you like, who are you? And then you say your name. They're like, that's just your name. Who are you? And you're like, I'm a dancer. That's just what you do. Who are you? And I'm like, shut up.
I still to this day think about it. I'm like, what was I supposed to say?
Yeah, like, what are you trying to
what
get
did you want me to say? And then, no, I don't want to say
the answer was probably like, I'm a child of God or something.
Yeah, but now my problem with that is, that's just your religion. Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
baby, all of those things make me. Yeah, that is just my job. That is just my interest. That is just my religion. That is just. But that's who I am.
The mixture of all those things.
The amalgamation is me.
Yeah. So weird.
Anyway, what I want to say is my biggest takeaway from always transitioning and always moving is moving away from how you grew up, where you grew up, and the people that you grew up with can be very traumatizing. Because I was 18 years old, moving to a big city, living with family, but family I didn't know, who now I know and love, but I didn't know then. And I couldn't drive. That was another thing. I was horribly terrified of driving, and then I moved here and I had to drive. Like, it was that. That was that. I had to drive. I had to navigate my way around the city. I had to meet all of these people who had completely different mindsets than I did. Coming from a small town, just crazy. Plus being in a space like varsity, which is already an amalgamation of people. And then, so Was it traumatizing? Yes. There were, of course, there are moments of like trauma in that, of like everything that you've ever known doesn't exist and might not even be real. But then that was the best thing I could ever do.
Yeah.
Ever do, hands down, was taking everything and moving and being subjected to entirely new everything. And so my one piece of advice for everybody that I know or don't know is at some point in your life, even if it is for 2 weeks, just go by yourself, take whatever, and just go to a new place with nobody that you know, nothing familiar. Just go and experience that, because it will expand your mindset, expand you as a person. It will grow you so much. And the way it makes you question everything that you've ever known, you can't get from any other experience. And so everybody that I know, the one piece of advice that I always give them is, if you grew up in a place, especially the people that I grew up with in that specific place, is just move. Just at some point, just move away from the things that you know.
Right.
And you will discover a whole new world out there.
I think for me, the way that I relate to that is like, because I haven't moved around a lot, but I've changed the course of my life a lot in terms of like the decisions I make.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, and I'm not scared to do that. Like,
No.
And that's what I was telling you the other day, like, because now with my video editing job, whatever, everyone's always asked, like, all the supervisors are like, okay, where do you want to go from here? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I literally live in the moment. And when there's a moment where I feel like this is no longer serving me, or I can do something else, then I do that. Like, I'm not scared of that kind of change. And that's what someone once told. I think maybe that's the best advice I've ever gotten from someone. When I was deciding, like, what do I study? Where do I go? All of these things, because I was between, like, musical theater, drama, whatever. And this one girl that I really looked up to, she was like, you don't have to be one thing. You're allowed to be different things. You're allowed to explore all the different things that you love. You can be a dancer for 3 years. This is what she was telling me. She was like, I was a professional dancer for, let's say, 4 years, whatever. And then I decided I don't want to do this anymore. And she studied forensics. And then 6 years later, she was like, I want to dance again. And she went back. And that, like, yo, dude, that's killed
amazing.
me. I was like, I love that. So
that's been such a big, prominent message I've tried to get across to my family, because they were like, oh, okay, you're going to study, you're going to do drama, and then that's what you're going to do. And then when I was like, okay, but I want to be an editor, they were like, what?
Yeah, where does this come from? Like, life doesn't have to be linear. Like,
but exactly.
You make your path.
When I was like, I'm going to go study drama, it was never that I'm going to go study drama and be one thing. I've never, ever in my whole entire life just wanted to be one thing.
Right.
I've never seen my career as just one thing. I'm like, yeah, I can have a clothing business, and then I can be a fucking hairdresser, and I can be an actress, and I can be different things. I don't have to be one thing, and I don't have to have one label.
Exactly. And you're allowed to explore those things. You're allowed to fail in those things. You're allowed to achieve in those things. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Of course they're going to think that, because when I was in school, I didn't have the words to say that. I didn't have the language to communicate that, so I never did. I just let them think that, and now when I'm an adult, they're like,
now they're confused.
You've changed. I'm like, no, I've actually always been this person. I just didn't know how to say it.
I just actually grew into myself.
Yeah. Moving also gives, well, not moving, but like changing, transitioning your life gives you language that you didn't have. And moving to a big city, which of course is privilege, because I moved to a new city, but also I went to university in that. So like I can't remove the two. Like, there's no way for me to say if it was just moving to a new city or if it was the experience of going to study. Because for me they're intertwined. They're the same thing. And that experience gave me language, which is so fucking important. It's the tool I've had to be myself and to be an identity and to have it and to try and communicate it, whether people accept it or reject it or whatever. And even if that's hard, that's what I have. I have language that I never, ever had before.
That's beautiful. Increase your language, your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Your experience. And the only way you're going to do that is through different experiences.
And increasing your language is going to give you the space to gain a new identity, or to explain your old one, or to grow from your old one. Yeah. Just everyone's always saying this. You're always telling us to move, no. Because that's the best advice that I can give you, and because I've seen how that's not just I can say, oh, I've seen how this made me grow. I can feel it, whatever. But like, my best friend of 9 years can tell me, you've grown so much. You're a different person, whatever. If they can see it, everyone can see it. Like, I'm a different person because I have language, because I have access to things, because I got new experiences, because I was faced with things that was difficult. Do you know how it's the thing that we spoke about? It's violent to be confronted
to disrupt.
To be confronted with a disruption. I remember distinctly the first time that someone was like, "Oh, okay, you're a Christian. Why?" Because in my small town, it was, yes, there were people who weren't Christian and who were other like religions and whatever. But first of all, it was mostly Christian, and second of all, even other religions and stuff, I was kept away from. And then when I broke out of that, I was like, I'm gonna date a Jew. Like, their family was still like, okay, you're a Christian girl, so like, God is there, happy days, you know. But when someone was like, you might be wrong, so maybe think about that, I was like, oh, hang on. First of all, don't talk to me like that.
First of all,
but
rude.
Then, yeah, rude. But then, like, actually questioning that and whatever, some things I took and adopted and said, you're right, I agree with you. And some things I was like, you're wrong, but now I know why.
And that's the thing, questioning things will lead to you
having a deeper and better understanding of yourself.
Understanding, yes. And then going through the change that needs to happen. Moral of the story, change is good. Embrace it. And it's okay.
Yeah.
And change not just in moving or changing your career or whatever. Just change, like, of your mindset, of the way you see things, and the way you accept things.
Yeah. How do you do that? You have to be confronted with new experience. You have to place yourself in new experiences in spaces that you're not comfortable.
You have to displace yourself.
Yeah. And you can do that in the city that you're living in. You can do that in the house that you're living in. Just go to have new experiences in places where you're uncomfortable. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not, like, it sounds very glorified when we say it, because you're like, oh my God, you're going to change. You're going to be this new, beautiful, amazing person. Like,
it's hard.
It doesn't work that way.
You're going to cry.
When you're in it. Yeah. You're not like, oh, I'm changing. You're like, why did I believe this for my whole life? Why was this the thing that was in my brain? Why did I never question this? And you blame yourself and you blame people and whatever. But once you're through that, you're through it.
Yeah. Then it's like,
there's literally a light at the end of the tunnel.
Clear skies. It sounds so cheesy, but it really is the truth.
So do it. That's my advice.
Go do it. That's this week's advice.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Also, like, communicate with us. This week's episode, hopefully last week's episode also, but this week's episode should be on YouTube. And so comment, speak to us. Like,
we'll respond, we promise. We won't leave you hanging.
And tell us your experiences of your transitions in life and your displacements and your moving and growing
and evolving through life.
And your advice on doing that or not doing that. Because maybe your view is completely different from ours. Maybe you're like, please stay in the place where you grew up and never ever go anywhere else.
Which is good. We want to hear different opinions.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Namaste.
Thank you, Mornay.
Thank you, Mornay. That's not offensive to anyone, is it?
If namaste is offensive to you, please communicate that.
Please let us know, because...
Yeah. We do yoga. Just so you know.